I'm Michelle Bernstein. Today we're making our own jams, marmalades, and pickles. No, you're not watching a rerun from the 1950s. I'm really going to show you how, and it'll be fun and delicious here on this 2016 edition of SoFlo Taste. This is South Florida. It's where I live and work. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. South Florida is more than sun, sand, and sea. It's a lifestyle of fashion, sound, culture, and of course, food. Food with taste from all over the world. Join me as we celebrate the food of South Florida and the people who love it. Join me as we experience SoFlo Taste. Hello, I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein here at the Miami Culinary Institute. Welcome to SoFlo Taste. Ever try making your own jams, marmalades, or pickles? I hear you. You're saying, why? When I can go to the store and get one of at least 57 varieties? Well, you're right, you can, but here's my answer, because these are more delicious, and I'm going to make it fun for you. So let's get cooking. First thing I'm going to make is a bacon onion marmalade. You can't buy that in a store. It takes a little bit of time, but man, it's so worth it, and it holds really well for a really long time, and nothing tops a steak better. So the first thing you're going to have to do is cut up bacon really nice and small like this. Render, if you don't know what rendering means, it basically means to cook to allow all the natural oils or fats to be released. Strain it, and then you have all that good fat left in the pan. To that, we're going to add a lot of julienne or thinly sliced yellow onions, and this is one thing that takes a long time. Yellow onions to caramelize take at least 25, sometimes even 30 minutes. You want to go at kind of a medium-low pace, and we're going to cheat it a little bit by adding a little bit of brown sugar, and you really want them well caramelized. So you're going to add the sugar and just let it go. Just let it cook. If it looks like it's getting a little dark too early, lower your temperature to a low heat. But again, this should take at least 20 to 25, sometimes 30 minutes to get caramelized. And what do I mean by caramelized? This is what I mean by caramelized. Look how beautiful this is. So the onions are transparent. They are sweet and delicious, and they almost don't taste like onions anymore. They're just pure yum. So to that, I'm going to add all the bacon. And this one's actually cooled. So I'm going to add that to my caramelized onion. Still on a somewhat low heat. I'm going to add a little bit of brewed coffee to this for that kind of nutty flavor, and water. Lower your heat to a nice low simmer and cook that for a good 20, maybe even 25 minutes. And what you're looking for will be this. See how beautifully sticky this is? Here, let me show you. That's just gorgeous. And that has cooked down, it's reduced. And the last thing I'll add to this is a little bit of balsamic vinegar, just for the balance in the acid and the sweetness and the saltiness. You really kind of have everything going for you here in this marmalade. This is wonderful. It's really, like I said, it's worth the time it does take, because it is like nothing else, really. Great topping for maybe some canapes or hors d'oeuvres that you're having at home. But I'm going to top a filet mignon. I just happen to have a filet mignon seared off right behind me. And there's nothing better. I like to add a little bit of sea salt to finish. Stir it around. And how about this gorgeous bacon onion marmalade to start out the show? Oof, it just glistens. It's delicious. All right, so I'm going to put that aside and move on to some fun pickles. The first pickle I'm going to show you is pickled cauliflower. I've cut the florets not too small. I like nice and crunchy cauliflower. You can cut them smaller if you want the cauliflower to be a little more sort of cooked, a little more tender. I have champagne vinegar, which I'll add to the pot. Champagne vinegar is a beautiful vinegar. If you can't find it for some reason, you can easily use white wine vinegar or pretty much white vinegar, but I just like to use just different vinegars every time I make different pickles, but it's really up to you. So these are cardamom pods. Cardamom is just a beautiful spice, really fragrant. If you can find the pods, they're great to use because they strain right out. If you can't, you can always use ground cardamom, but just go sparingly because it's really fragrant. I'll add some of those into my vinegar. I've got a cinnamon stick, and I have a star anise, which has a beautiful Asian smell to it. It's just lovely. I'm going to add the same amount of salt as sugar. White sugar for this one. You can use sugar in the raw turbinado if you want to as well, but I don't like brown sugar in my pickles. You're going to bring this up to a boil, shut it off, and let it just sit and kind of gather flavor. You want it to macerate. And that only takes about 20 minutes. I don't have time to do a full maceration in front of you, but all you're looking for right now is to melt this sugar and salt and bring it to a boil. I'm going to start the next pickle in the next pot. I'm going to take the apple cider vinegar, which is one of my favorite vinegars to use for pickling. For my carrots, I'm using fennel seed, one of my favorite things on earth. Celery seed, something I can't do without on my coleslaw. And whole black peppercorns. A little bit of salt. And finally, red pepper flake, because I want these carrots to be a little bit spicy. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to strain the pickle into this pan. And I'll put the cauliflower back in here. And pour the strained liquid right over that cauliflower. And I went back into the hot pan so that the cauliflower softens up. You want that to sit to come to room temperature, and then we're going to immediately go into the refrigerator into another container. You can put things in ball jars once they're come to room temperature, but not before. And this is just wonderful because as it sits and gathers that pickle flavor, it's actually going to cook the cauliflower to that perfect kind of al dente crispiness. And let's check out our carrot mixture. So for the carrots, I don't want to go back in the pot because the carrots, look how nice and thin they're cut. This is probably about somewhere between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch thick. And so this is going to soften very quickly. And so what we're going to do is strain it right into the bowl, let that come to room temperature, and then cool that immediately as well. So this is now all melted, and I'm going to strain that right over the carrot. Oh, this is my favorite one, I think, probably because of the fennel seed and the celery seed. It's just wonderful in that one. And you'll always get a little residual celery seed in there, but I kind of love that so much. It's wonderful. All right, when we come back, we're going to move right into our sweet side. We're going to make some delicious jams. I've got all kinds of grapefruit for you, so don't go away too far. SoFlo Taste will return right after this.
Save the date, SoFlo Tasters. On Saturday and Sunday, March 5th and 6th, you're invited to attend the first annual Cork and Fork at Carnival on the Mile, an amazing dining experience with the top chefs in South Florida. 4 delicious sessions will be offered. You can fill your craving for great food at any one of the 4 sessions. What you can't do is procrastinate. There are only so many plates available to this gastronomic event. The first annual Cork and Fork at Carnival on the Mile. For event and ticket information, go to SoFloTaste.com.
Before I get to those jams, I decided to show you a pickled shrimp. I know it sounds weird, but it is tasty and delicious. And when you have royal red shrimp from Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market, you have the best shrimp there is, period. So I'm going to go ahead and this is kind of a 2-step process. I'm going to cook the shrimp first, And then I'm going to put it into pickling liquid. So the first thing I have to do is make the pickling liquid. So for this one, I'm using white distilled vinegar, black peppercorns, a star anise, coriander seed, which by the way is related to cilantro, cloves, just one, and again, red crushed chili flake, and a nice amount of salt for that balance. All right, I'm going to let that come to a boil. Again, we're going to pretend that it sits for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to cool it right in here. This is a bowl sitting inside of a bowl of ice water, and that's where the pickle is going to go so that it cools, because the shrimp are already cooked. We don't have to cook it again. These are, like I said, royal reds, and they've been deveined, but the shell is still on, and that's how I'm going to keep them. So I have this boiling water. I'm going to go ahead and cook the shrimp, not for too long. And I'm not really adding any spices to the water. It has a little salt in it, but that's it because of the pickle. All right, these should only take a minute 20 to cook at the most. So I'm just going to let those go. This has just come to a boil. I'm shutting it off. And all of the salt has melted in. And to save us a little time, I'm going to go ahead and cool that off already. So you can see all those beautiful spices. I'm going to allow everything to cool off and then add my shrimp in there. Let's check on the shrimp. So pull the shrimp out. I have a little tray to cool them off. And I'm basically just waiting for that pickle to cool off more than I'm waiting for the shrimp to cool off. Now I always cook my shrimp until they're about 90% done, and I don't actually put them in ice water like most people do, because I think that ice water takes away the flavor. It washes off that beautiful salty shrimp water flavor. So I cook my shrimp almost the whole way, but not to the point of crunchy, you know, and I just let them sit on a tray. You can put this tray in a cooler if you want to, and let them cool like that, because why wash off that beautiful flavor? So this is going to take a little bit to cool, but just for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So put these right in to that cooled water, and I would allow them to sit in a nice cool water. You can put that into a fridge, or you can let it sit in ice water for about 30 minutes is all you need for it to get really nice and pickled. And the flavor will just be delicious. So up next, strawberry rhubarb jam. Yum. For more information on today's show, or to see a previous episode, or just to ask me a question, please go to our website, SoFloTaste.com. It's your one-stop shop for everything SoFlo Taste. Welcome back to the Jams, Marmalades, and Pickles show. Now I'm going to teach you probably the sweetest part of the show, two delicious jams. One is a rhubarb strawberry jam, and the other is a clementine jam. Both delicious, and the best part about it is they're both from Florida. Let's start out with the strawberry one first. So for strawberry jam, what you do is, however many pounds of fruit, you take exactly half of that, the amount of sugar, and let's say I'm using a pound of strawberries and a pound of rhubarb, which is 2 pounds of fruit. I'm going to take that into ounces for the amount of lemon juice. You got that? If not, don't worry about it. Go to SoFloTaste.com and you can get the recipe. Pretty simple. So I'm going to take the strawberries, keep them whole, just make sure that they are stemmed and cleaned. Rhubarb, oof, rhubarb is so good, so delicious. Kind of looks like celery, but it's pink, and it is incredibly tart and wonderful. Makes great pies and cobblers and jams. I love the combination of strawberry and rhubarb together. Lemon juice and sugar. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on and let that go. It should take about 15 to 20 minutes to become a jam. The thicker the jam, the longer it takes for you to cook, basically. It's up to you how thick you want it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that over to this side and let that cook while I show you the clementine jam. For this one, I did things a little bit differently than I would normally do. I went ahead and put everything into a food processor, grated everything, because you know the zest of the citrus, whatever you're using, is just as important as the flesh of it. So this is kind of an easier way to make it. It's also a quicker way to make it. If you want a long cook, you can keep your skin or zests a lot chunkier, but this came out really beautifully. So let me show you what to do. You basically need a food processor with a grater attachment. This is a grater attachment. Okay. I cut up the clementines just to make it easier in the feed tube. And I'll do this a couple times. And the best thing is these are seedless, so no work. If you were using a tangerine or something with a seed, just seed them. Cut them in quarters and seed them before you went ahead and did this. I'm also adding 1 lemon, skin and all, so that I can get a little tartness to that. Okay, the next thing I did, I actually found to be big chunks in here. So I went ahead and changed the attachment from the grater attachment to the regular slicer. And I just ran it a couple times. All right, now everything is pretty much the same size. By the way, this made my house smell so good last night. It was just wonderful. There's nothing better than a bunch of citrus zests in your house to make it just freshen up the smell. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put that into a pot. And normally this would just take sugar, but because I'm kind of on this Florida kick with the Florida citrus and everything, I decided to use a little bit of Florida honey as well. So I'm doing about 3 to 1 sugar to honey. All right, so I'm going to turn that on. That is going to cook at a nice medium-low temperature, and just watch it. Stir it up about every 10 minutes or so, not too long. Again, if you want a thicker marmalade, you go a little bit longer, but never bring it up to too high of a temperature because it could scald and it will change the nature. It will change the flavor of it. So I went nice and medium-low on it, and it took me about 25 to 30 minutes to get a beautiful texture. Of course, we had to make you some fresh biscuits to show you how beautiful the marmalade came out. All right, so there's nothing finer than a nice fresh biscuit to show off how good your marmalade is. Of course, I would probably just use some toast. So depending on your preference, here is the beautiful, oh my goodness, look how gorgeous this is. And I'm so glad we made so much so I could take some home. Strawberry rhubarb marmalade. And believe it or not, my usual favorite is orange, so I'm going to go with the clementine, which is just filled with all the zests, but is beautifully balanced Oof. Sweeten up your life and make your own marmalade. Thanks for joining me today. See, I told you making jams, marmalades, and pickles could be both fun and delicious. Next week, get your cup of coffee ready and join me because I'll be making the donuts. And these aren't just donuts, they're designer donuts, and you're the designer. I'm Michelle Bernstein, and I'll see you then on SoFlo Taste. Yum.